Mr. Henderson, you founder of Henderson International since 1997.
Correct. I have been in the sector for almost 25 years, but Henderson International was founded in 1997. Actually, it started with Henderson Insurances in 1997, and then it emerged into Henderson International that was founded in 2017. So combined, the years are in excess of 25.
So it's quite a long time. So let's remind our viewers that you don't have insurance company, you insurance broker. So it means you deal with many insurance companies, and over those years you have dealt with many clients and situations. So your knowledge is very, very needed, and thank you again for sharing your time with us. Because in Henderson International, you not only deal with property insurance, you deal with any kind of insurances.
Yes, we deal with all types of insurance, as a matter of fact. Once it is a risk and it is concerning to a customer, what happens if something goes wrong and it has a financial impact, then we can, and most of the time are willing and able to find some type of coverage that is going to make sure that if there is a loss, you do not suffer the financial consequences. So yes, and as you stated, we are an insurance brokerage firm. It is very important to emphasize that in this territory, an insurance broker has what you call the duty of care. And that means that we have to put the interest of customers first, because of course you have the insurance companies that sell a product, and you have our role, which is to do an inventory of the needs of the customer. And once we establish the needs with the customer, then we will seek the appropriate coverage. And to find that coverage, we have a pool of insurance companies and sometimes reinsurers that we will try to place those risk exposures with.
Okay, let's jump into real estate insurances. Could you provide overview of insurance policies that are commonly used or purchased by homeowners and property owners in general here in Sint Maarten?
Yes, well, once you own a property, it means that that is a significant investment. I am sure most people cannot just rebuild a home from scratch if that home should be devastated. So it is important that a property owner seeks insurance. And what we see that is very common on Sint Maarten and in this territory is that homeowners share the same concern. And that concern, or those concerns are, what if my property is destroyed by a fire? What if it is destroyed by a hurricane, an earthquake, seaquake, all those type of natural disasters? So you would find insurance policies that will zoom in on those concerns and provide some type of a comprehensive coverage. So yes, a property owner usually looks to cover those type of risk exposures. And you have the option of a regular fire policy, because a fire is one of the oldest risks that exists. Since cavemen could hit rocks together, things were burning down. But today, with so much electronics, things can burn down much more easier. And of course, with climate change and so forth, you have the other perils. So you have the option of a fire policy, but also a fire extended policy. And that is what we refer to sometimes as the comprehensive coverage.
So I understand it's very individual. Me as homeowner can come and choose in very details what I want to insure, correct?
Yes, you can specify specifically what risk you feel you're exposed to, and it can differ from one customer to another customer. So then the task of the insurance broker at that point is to see what coverages are available on the market. Sometimes you have the coverages on the shelf, so shelf products that will address those concerns, but you also sometimes need to have a tailor-made product, and that the broker is also very instrumental in getting for you.
As you mentioned it already, we live in very specific area. I still need to ask you, when selecting insurance policy, what are key factors that property owners should be specifically aware of? Here we talk about Sint Maarten.
Okay, well, first of all, you are someone that is coming to an insurance provider, and you have an asset, you have a property, and you want to insure that. So it's very important to know what information you need to provide the insurance entity with. And there, a broker is instrumental in helping you to provide that information. It usually happens by way of an application form, and you would then make an assessment about what is specifically the value that you should insure. So what we use here, we refer to them as appraisal reports. And in an appraisal report, you have three values. You have the market value, you have the auction value, and you have the reconstruction value. The market value is not important for insurance purposes because that has to do with how much one is willing to pay for that property in the particular area. So that includes the land, and it includes the market demand for that particular property. Then you have the auction value, which is also not important for insurance because that is usually based on you making good on the mortgage that you have on that property. And usually when you don't meet those expectations, the lender can reduce your property for a quick sale. So that is not important either. What is important for a property owner is the reconstruction value. And that has to do with the cost to rebuild a similar property, same size, same quality. So if you had marble tiles, you get marble tiles. If it had 3 bedrooms, you get back 3 bedrooms. So the cost in labor and material to rebuild that property is what you need to present to the insurance entity for coverage. So that is the most critical aspect when presenting risk to the insurance entity.
So when it comes to buying property insurance, what documentation is required? Commonly, usually, what documentation is required?
An appraisal report. But in our system, you have what you call the certified appraisal report. And if you present that, it means that in event of a claim, the value cannot be contested because it is a certified appraisal. But our system also allows for so-called appraisal report. So that is someone that simply has knowledge of what the construction costs are. It can be a contractor. And you have the open policy. So the open policy means that, okay, I am aware that my property is worth 1 million, but I prefer to have some insurance than none at all. So then you can decide, well, the premium that I can afford is only based on the value of, let's say, 500,000. So you can insure your property for 500,000, even though it is worth $1 million in the reconstruction cost. But that has a negative consequence when you have a claim. It means that your settlement will be proportional
to what you have insured.
To what you have insured. So if you insure it half of the value, when you submit a claim, if the claim is 100,000, you will get half in the settlement. Unless, I must say, unless you get the insurance company to agree upfront that even though the property is worth $1 million, you're going to insure it at 50%, but that you will not be rendered underinsured. So they will compensate you for whatever claim amount once it does not exceed the $500,000. But that, from the onset, the premium is a little higher because the insurance company knows that they will have to deal with the brunt of the claim, the first brunt of the claim.
And in this case, your company as insurance broker represent clients in such a type of claims.
Absolutely, yes. So it's all about the customer, the needs of the customer, and seeing how we can make a match to ensure that the customer gets some coverage.
Since we're already talking about claims, can you explain at least a little bit the process of filing claim for property damage?
Okay. Well, the same way you have an application form to obtain the insurance, the insurance companies have a claim form. And claim form is primarily to put the insurance company on notice that, listen, there was a fire, there was a hurricane, I have a claim, I will be submitting the details to you later. So you put them on notice by way of that claim form. In a later stage, you will then be in the position to go get a contractor or an engineer to piece together what exactly your loss is. And then they will establish in a report that, look, to fix these losses, in labor, this is what it's going to cost. In material, this is what it's going to cost. And then when you submit that to the insurance company, of course, because you have a burden of proof, the insurance company may ask you a number of questions to verify, listen, is this really worth 100,000? How do you quantify it? So, and in that process also, in our system, the broker is in an empowered position by law to make sure that we give guidance and make sure that the policy wording is interpreted in a way that the client is not adversely affected by the settlement.
What aspects are important when it comes to calculating monthly insurance payments? In other words, how high your policy will be. Besides, I understand if you have different furniture, right, depends on quality of finishing. But if there's any other factors that makes this financial difference?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. You have, once you're going to present a risk to an insurance company for coverage, there are some calculating factors to establish the premium. And actually, if you cannot calculate a risk, you cannot calculate a premium. So the insurance company wants to see what type of property it is. Is it a concrete structure? Is it a wooden structure? Is it a prefab structure? Those are very important things. What type of electrical wiring does it have? Is it one that is approved by the national electrical company of the country? Is it on a hilltop? Is it in an industrial area? Is it on a waterfront? So those are all things that the insurance company would look at, and then they will calculate their worst probable loss with such property. And based on that, they will establish what we call a premium tariff. So you can usually expect in these territories that your premium is about 1% of the insured value. If there are circumstances that really give the insurance company reason for concern, let's say it's in an industrial area, then you can have a premium loading for something like that. And also, there are usually factors that has a mitigating effect on the risk that the insurance company is taking. And there too, again, your broker can present those mitigating factors and get a reduction in the standard premium for you.
So again, it's very important to know that your company as insurance broker is here to educate and advise clients about all those little factors that sometimes make big difference.
Absolutely, because in today's world, money is something that comes easy, but it goes fast, and people really can do with any type of savings that is available. And as you know, insurance is one of the expenses that really weighs heavy on people's pocket. So we take it serious in advising people well in saving on premiums. And that is also one of the reasons why we are one of the biggest brokers on Sint Maarten. We have customers like, like the airport, like Winair, like McDonald's, the hospital. So, and not to mention the thousands of customers that really count on us to constantly guide and advise them in terms of not just having good coverage, but also having good and affordable premiums. And most important, when there are claims, the customer does not have to go up against the insurance company, because that is the role that we will then fulfill in making sure that the interest of the customer is represented in a claims process.
This question I hear very often from my clients, especially those clients who wants to move into Sint Maarten from abroad, and they have no idea about pricing, how much it costs. Could you give rough examples of insurance pricing for, let's say, 2-bedroom condo or house? Is it possible that you could give? I know that it can vary, depends on, for example, location, but maybe at least such a rough calculation.
Well, that is actually not such a complicated or a hard question, because we have building codes on Sint Maarten. And those building codes are being enforced very strictly because we are in a hurricane belt. So most properties are constructed of concrete. And sometimes people even build much stronger than the regulations require of them, because they too want to be safe during a hurricane. So to give an average rate, if you have a property that is worth, let's say, 100,000, you would be paying something like $1,100, between $1,000 and $1,100 per year for a property that is worth $100,000. knows.
Okay, that's very helpful. It will give idea at least what to expect, especially for those new homeowners who really don't know how much insurance can cost here on Island.
Okay.
Are there any unique requirements for those properties that located in coastal or waterfront areas?
Yes, well, without a doubt, those have a higher probability for loss because of the fact that we are an island and we're close to the sea. So the chances of flooding and high waves during a hurricane is greater. So you would have to see which insurance company is willing to accept that risk. And some of them would probably accept it, but at an increased rate. Or some of them will accept it, but they will exclude coverage that is caused by a seaquake. So it is very important for you to get clarity on what exactly a policy covers when you are living in coastal areas.
So are there any exclusions? For example, if you live in coastal area, are there any exclusions that you cannot insure?
No, well, an insurance company always have three options when you submit an application form. One, they can reject. Two, they can accept the risk as is with an exclusion or with a premium increase. So those are the three options. Sometimes you have to be very careful because you can have a policy today that covers everything, but over time, maybe there was an amendment because that insurance company no longer has the same risk appetite for coastal properties. So there might be an amendment that is telling you, as of today, for us, seaquakes are only covered 50%. And there also you need to be very close with your broker to know whether there was an adjustment to the coverage or not.
What is the last moment to insure your property against hurricane?
Well, the insurance product is based on two key things. It must be a calculable risk and it must have an uncertainty factor. So the minute it is certain that there will be a hurricane coming to Sint Maarten, let's say in 48 hours, at that point, insurance companies will sound the alarm that as of this point, until further notice, we will not accept new risk or we will not renew policies for which people have not paid for us yet. So, to answer the question specifically, it stops at the moment that the insurance company makes that announcement. And again, if you have...
It's flexible.
Yes. And again, if you have an independent broker that works with different insurance companies, like we do, you would have company A making that announcement, let's say, Monday. But company B might make the announcement Wednesday. So if you come to the broker would still be able to put you with company B because the announcement was not made as yet.
Correct. So the broker will be aware of those things.
Correct.
Normal person technically doesn't have even a chance to know.
Or would not be interested in because they have a different life, they have a different things on their mind, different priorities. So it's not their core thing. So sometimes the information is made public, but not everyone reads that, or not everyone is into insurance.
Of course.
As a matter of fact, very few people are into insurance.
Many of my clients who buy property, of course, they go with bank loan. What kind of insurance policies are necessary when obtaining a mortgage?
Okay, well, once it comes to a mortgage, you're talking about various interests coming into play. You have the interest of the bank, you have the interest of the insurance company, you have the interest of the client, right? And then we're not even talking about the interest of shareholders and so forth. So the minute you're going to take a mortgage for your property, it is important to make sure that in event of death, premature death, that there is a life policy that will pay off the loan. That works good for the bank because they get their money instantly from the payout. It also works good for the client because their beneficiaries, their heirs, get to live in a property that is mortgage-free. The second thing is, of course, it is a property and it is exposed to a number of risks. So you would want to have a comprehensive property insurance for that. That too works good for the bank or the lender, and it works good for the property owner because you don't want to end up in a situation where you have to pay the bank, you don't have a home to live in, and you still have to find money to repair. So to answer your question, those two things are key. Having a life policy, it is referred to as a term life policy, the one that is most effective in a mortgage agreement, and to have a property insurance, a comprehensive property insurance.
If a home buyer takes loan from the bank, is he or she obligated to take insurance from this bank?
Well, that is actually something that is very, very dangerous. And I go out on a limb to say this because you're talking about a practice that has been condoned for many, many years. We see how that works in the big economies. The United States, for example, have had so many issues of too big to fail. We are seeing that happening in our own territories now, where customers, the weaker party in the agreement, are left with the shorter end of the stick, right? So you don't want to have a mortgage with an entity. You owe them money. You put your insurance with them. When there's a claim, you have to also deal with them for a settlement. Sometimes they are shareholders.
One-sided story.
Sometimes they are shareholders of the bank, of the insurance companies. So in our territories in particular, where you can have, like we've had in 2017, Hurricane Irma, more than 800 million had to be paid out to customers. So you don't want to have the same set of shareholders coming together and saying we cannot pay 800 million, and then they instruct adjusters to do whatever they have to do to make it 200 million, for example, or that bankruptcy becomes the best option for them, and then customers have to live with a too big to fail. So I go on a limb saying that, but I think it is really worth the customer who I see as the weaker party in an insurance agreement to have that type of information very clear.
When we talk about property insurance, of course, the big market is homeowners, but there are also commercial properties. So how is the insurance coverage, how it differs when we talk about homeowners and about commercial properties?
Okay. Well, they're both property insurance, but then the key difference would be that one has a commercial nature, and usually when you are in commerce, you're talking about liabilities, various type of liabilities. Like if you are renting, then you have to take certain responsibilities towards renters, like if there are circumstances that will cause them injuries and so forth. If you are an industrial entity, of course, you're looking at the risk of explosion, you're looking at the risk of pollution, those type of things. So you're looking sometimes at employers' liability, in the relationship of employers, employees. So there are a number of liabilities that comes into play when you make the distinction between commercial properties versus private properties. And there too, depending on which territory you are operating in, it is important to know how the liability laws are in that territory. And there too, again, you can get the advice from a broker to see what would be most appropriate for you. It is equally important to understand which territories, allows lawsuits that are just reckless. In our territory, we very often have to let people know that, we have a legal system where the liability laws, they tend to mitigate claims and have it make some kind of, you have to prove what you've really lost before a court will award you a settlement, versus some systems where people are allowed to sue and there are emotions in the claim and everything else that is awarded. So a system like that versus our system, the premiums will be cheaper here. And the likeliness of you getting an exorbitant lawsuit that is awarded by a court is minimal compared to a more liberal country where they allow for someone getting millions because hot coffee fell on them, for example.
And here in Henderson International, you also offer such a type of policies for commercial properties.
Absolutely. But also the operations of those entities. Mm-hmm. For example, you have directors and officers liability. That deals with the decisions that directors and officers make.
Like for real estate, for example. Right?
For real estate, then you would be looking at a professional liability. Because as a professional, there are certain things sometimes you are supposed to disclose to customers, or there are things that you would be expected to have knowledge of that you, in reason, should have disclosed. Sometimes, people just make errors. So the professional liability insurance is also referred to as a errors and omission policy. So we also look at the type of operation you have, and based on that operation, we will be able to identify which policy is the better policy. For example, the cadastral services, they are charged with putting stakes at properties to establish the boundaries and so forth. So let's say they make a mistake and you end up with 2 meters smaller of a property that is manifested maybe 10 years later. That will have to be covered under a professional liability policy, because the professional who went out and had to do that made a mistake. But then in a similar operation, you can have something that's a directive that is coming from management or the supervisory board that resulted in a financial loss. So that will have to be covered under directors and officers liability. So having the right policy for the right risk exposure is very critical, because what you don't want to do is to buy coverage that actually covers you hurting yourself on Sint Maarten while skiing in the snow. It's money you prefer to buy groceries with.
We mentioned it at the beginning, but let's remind one more time that at Henderson International, you are not insurance company, you're insurance broker, and besides all kind of property insurances, you service another policies, right?
Correct. So we are the entity that you come to, where we will be able to make an inventory about what really your risk exposures are, and based on those risk exposures, we can see what the insurance market has available to make sure that when you have a loss or damages, that you can get compensated by the insurance policy. Now, the significant added value is that we represent all insurance companies on Sint Maarten and also some companies abroad. So depending on your specific circumstances, we will be able to get you either the better coverage, because some people really care about, listen, if I am sick, I don't want to have too much questions asked. I just want to jump on a flight and go and deal with my headache in Alaska. So they don't care how much they have to pay for that. But if it is someone that is really looking at a budget, then we also have those solutions for them. And with that, we have a pool of about 12 different insurance entities that is at our fingertips to be able to quote you, but also give you solid information with regards to the differences in the coverages, so that you can make an informed decision. Because at the end of the day, we spend a lot of time with customers educating them about the coverage and even how the market works, because we have experienced that when there are claims, it is much easier, it is much better to be dealing with informed customers, because your job is then much easier.
If someone would like to know more about insurances or calculate policy or purchase policy, how they can contact you, where's your office, where to go?
Well, on Sint Maarten we have two locations, in Manam Estate, Amsterdam Shopping Center, and in Colby. And yes, we have a website and email and telephone numbers.
Yes,
I don't know them by heart.
We're going to display web address.
Okay, so you will have to help me
Our
out on
viewers
this.
will know where to go.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time again. And if anyone wants to know anything about insurances, I think that's the best place to go. Your portfolio covers really wide range of insurances, marine insurances, health insurances. So
Life insurance, pension plans. We have a number of investment products. We do financial planning, and I believe this is one of the few companies on Sint Maarten that can boast 5 qualified professionals approved by the central bank to be in the position to give advice customers.
We encourage our viewers to go at least on your website, but we invite you also to Henderson International office and go and check your options, ask questions. There are very nice people working here to help you, and thank you very much again. It's a lot of valuable information that I'm sure will be helpful for clients, for property owners.
I must thank you very much for this interview, and it shows also that your company has given heed to a very significant and important call of the people of Sint Maarten, because this information is information that is very much needed to help people acquire, protect, and transfer wealth to the next generation. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.